Good morning, Lagos, Nigeria. Welcome to another moment on Corporate Governance Platform. Sponsored by ICSAN, the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. The Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria is the body saddled with an associate of the international body. The Nigerian chapter was granted autonomy in August 1988 and incorporated under the Companies Act 1968. Is a leading recognized professional body dedicated to enhancing the status and practice of corporate governance and administration in both the public and private sectors of the economy. I am Olabisi Omidire. Welcome to Corporate Governance Platform. Today on Corporate Governance Platform on Equate 9.7 FM, our focus is on corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. Corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. And my guest is Mr. BAYO ALABIDUN, FCIS, former council member, ICSAN, and a legal practitioner, City Point Chambers. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, presenter, and good morning, Lagosians, and good morning, Nigerians. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
I also have with me in the studio the head of research for ICSAN, Mr. Kayode Ketefe, FCIS. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, BC. Good morning to you, our guest, Mr. BAYO ALABIDUN, FCIS. Good morning to you, all our listeners.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty of our focus, which is corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. Mr. ALABIDUN, why is effective board meetings so regarded as important in corporate governance?
Thank you very much. Let us start it this way. Who are the board of directors? We all know that any organization, any company is also known as a legal entity. In other words, it has a legal personality, but it doesn't have its own hands, nor legs, nor anything to be able to perform its own function. Every corporate organization is set up to achieve its objectives. Now, the corporate organizations, the companies, are set up by the shareholders. But these shareholders may not even have an idea of how to run those organizations. That's the reason why they have a body called the board of directors. The board of directors are actually in a position to perform the strategic leadership function for the organization. So in other words, they are the ones that strategize for every organization. This board, why the only platform where they can strategize for any organization is through the board meetings. In other words, the board meeting is supposed to serve as the engine room for those organizations. Strategic plans of organizations are decided at board meetings. So you cannot have a good strategic plan if you don't have a good platform of a board meeting where directors will, in a conducive environment and in a structured manner, be able to put down and discuss all these strategic plans. The owners of the company, the shareholders of the companies have control over this board. This board, they are responsible to these shareholders. But to achieve what they want to achieve, they need a platform. They need a particular meeting where they can sit down to strategize and bring up all these ideas together, which they are going to pass on to management to implement on a day-to-day basis. That's the reason why effective board meeting is important, because it is at that forum where the strategic plans of every company to achieve its strategic objectives are decided upon.
All right, you mentioned the word effective. So what does the word effective in the effective board meeting signify?
Thank you, madam. Yes, effectiveness in everything means that you have been able to achieve your aims and objectives. So for any board meeting, you already set up a plan which comes in form of an agenda. So for an effective board meeting, you will need those agenda that has already been decided upon by the chairman of the company, which it passes on to the company secretary to circulate amongst the directors. Then at that meeting, you also want to see that every program, every agenda that is stated in that notice of your meeting they are followed serially until you finish everything that you want to do. Of course, for an effective board meeting, you need that notice. Not only the notice has to comply with what the rules and the Corporate Governance Party says you should do, and the Companies and Other Matters Act. The chairman at every meeting will also need to guide the meeting to guide the board, the members of the board appropriately, so that they will not deviate from the trust of the meeting. In other words, the sense of the meeting, the chairman has to ensure that he guides it. So an effective board meeting will ensure that at that meeting, every program, every plan, every agenda is attended to, and they are all towards achieving the corporate objectives of any company and any organization, which is to create more wealth for the owners of the company.
Well, still on the effective board meeting, what are the key issues that are crucial for effective board meetings?
Thank you so very much. For an effective board meeting, there are some three basic issues and three basic parties that can ensure the effectiveness of a board meeting. We have the chairman, we have the company secretary, and we have the directors themselves too. Now, the chairman of every company determines how to run a board. It's not only the chairman of the board, it's also the chairman at every general meetings of the company. Now, the chairman, in performing his own pivotal role, will ensure that he not only decides on agenda that focuses on what is going to take the company to the next level of progress, to the next level of creation of wealth for it. It will also ensure that at every meeting, he is in charge. He must not allow the meeting to go out of control. He must allow contribution in a structured manner by every member of the board towards that objective. And towards this, of course, every board is expected to create committees. You must allow the committees to also present their report. The company secretary, of course, naturally must be a competent person. He is the one that is not only going to send out the notice, is also going to ensure that it takes records of the discussion and follows those discussions to actually know the trust of the meeting, what this particular meeting aims to achieve, and then document it. The company secretary will ensure that the venue of the meeting is prepared, is also made conducive for the directors, and he must also give them every information they require. The board papers must be given to them before the time. If there is the need to bring in consultants, to bring in experts, the company secretary liaises with the chairman of committees to bring them in. Now, the directors, who are equally key participants at every board meeting, must be there to present and then to also express their own opinions, because at board meetings, of course, I expect that we should know, or being an expert in corporate governance, we need to let people know that we have executive directors and non-executive directors. And now, even in the code of corporate governance, it has already been stated that there are some positions that even for non-executive directors, you still get some people that has particular knowledge, like in the area of accounting, financial management, to be there. So all these directors are expected to contribute and make their own meaningful contributions towards achieving the corporate objectives of the organization. So for any effective board meeting, you require all these principal participants to play their own role to enable us to achieve what we want to achieve, create enough wealth for the shareholders of the company.
It's still Corporate Governance Platform on Equate 9.7 FM, a program sponsored by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. We've been speaking with Mr. BAYO ALABIDUN, FCIS, former council member, ICSAN, legal practitioner, City Point Chamber, and discussing corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives. Moving ahead, The code provides those in relation to board. I quote and unquote. Every director should endeavor to attend all board meetings. The attendance record of directors should be among the criteria for the re-election of a director. Why do you think it is desirable for the attendance record being used among criteria director re-election?
Thank you so much again for this question, because it's also going to enlighten our listeners. The members of the board of directors, they are also supposed to be assessed at every meeting. They are supposed to be assessed by the owners of the company, because by the provisions of CAMA, directors are usually eligible for re-election. And now, how do you want to assess which director merits to continue to stay on the board? We need a scorecard. Now, do we now ask directors to sit down to come and start writing exams? How do we know this? How do we know their performance? It is only by attendance. And now, how do we know whether they have attended the meeting or not? It is only through a register of attendance. So, in other words, no matter how good or how brilliant a director is, if he fails to attend the meeting of the board of directors, how is he going to contribute meaningfully to what the board is doing? Although we can say that because of the COVID thing, that we now talk about virtual meeting. But even virtual meeting means that you are also going to sit down somewhere to be able to contribute. So a director that is exhibiting truancy cannot make any meaningful contribution to the success of that organization. So for that reason, it's very, very important that the attendance register is a key factor to determine whether a director is performing or is not performing, because your brilliance cannot be translated into anything if you don't come to board meeting to come and also show it, participate in the discussion. In fact, one statement that you make can make the whole board to change their own perceived conclusion on the subject matter. If you are there, if you are not there, they may have taken a wrong decision that may eventually affect the fortune of the company. So it's very, very important, and it's one of the key points that the corporate governance rules of 2018 actually provided for.
On a last note, what advice do you have for companies and other organizations on the issue of effective board meeting?
Yes, for corporate organizations and companies, I will advise them that they will need to ensure that they train their directors and ensure that the Code of Corporate Governance 2018, that they make it available to them. The Institute has a lot of training, and is the number one training platform for those in corporate administration, company secretaries in Nigeria. I would rather advise that companies, particularly companies that are still struggling, should ensure that they send their directors for training either at the institute or even invite the institute to come and train them. That is very, very important. It's very, very key.
All right, then. Thank you so very much, Mr. BAYO ALABIDUN, FCIS, former council member, ICSAN, legal practitioner, City Point Chambers. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so very much. I'm also happy to be here.
All right, before we wrap it up, Mr. Kayode Ketefe, FCIS, the head of research, has some announcement. Mr. Ketefe.
Thank you very much. Before I go to the announcement, let me quickly add that the Institute also has a lot of materials that can serve as a guide on the issue of meeting and minutes. I want to focus on the most recent publication of the Institute on this subject, and that is the Company Secretary Handbook, which, interestingly, the first edition of this handbook is on meetings and minute writing. The topic features almost A to Z of what you need to know about meetings. So we encounter various, the chapters deal with various topics on meetings. You have the type and nature of meetings, the role of the chairman and the secretary, how to employ relevant technologies to enhance effectiveness of meeting, checklists that you need on meeting. Virtually all necessary ideas that you need on meeting and minutes are contained in the book. And the The book is being sold for a paltry 5,000 naira. You can get copies of this book at the ICSAN Secretariat, Plot 6 Elephant Cement Way, Alausa, Ikeja. In fact, all the ICSAN offices all over Nigeria. And you can also buy it online at www.icsan.org.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ketefe. I'm afraid time is not on our side for today. On the show today, we took a look at corporate meetings as a vehicle of attaining strategic objectives with Mr. BAYO ALABIDUN, FCIS, former council member, legal ICSAN, and legal practitioner, City Point Chamber. And I'm also appreciating Mr. Kayode Ketefe, FCIS, Head of Research, ICSAN, for the information.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure.
This program comes up every Wednesday morning at 10:15 o'clock. It's Corporate Governance Platform, sponsored by the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria. I am Olabisi Omidiri. Good morning.